podcast contains adult themes and language. The views expressed here are our own opinions and experiences. We are not medical professionals.
In this podcast, we discuss our opinions about mental health, sobriety, addiction, and our pursuit of happiness and peace. This is Sober Mind.
Oh, yeah, everybody. Whoop, whoop.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is John,
I'm Judy.
And I'm Patrick.
and this is Sober Mind. Here we have conversations around mental health and sobriety, and it's all done in adult fashion. Grown folk conversation.
And like real grown folk conversation, we're all in one space now.
That's
I
right.
know I'm not in the box anymore, which is kind of nice.
Right?
Yeah. So here we are. We got the new studio built. This Patrick was a labor of, I don't know if it was love or not, man. We gave ourselves a very abrupt deadline by saying, "Hey, we'll get it done by next Saturday." And luckily, I was on vacation, but it was a ton of work.
It was a feat.
This actually, there was one point where it actually threw me into an anxiety attack. Almost passed out. It was brutal.
I had Judy helping me hang the sheetrock, and when we had to move that beam, that steel I-beam up there, she's like, "If it falls onto your head, it's gonna kill you, and you're gonna die." I'm like, "Yeah, probably. So don't, just hold steady."
Right?
She's like,
Don't blink.
"Yeah."
Oh man, I turned white as a sheet. I'm just hands ice cold. Not good.
I feel very different now. This is kind of a whole new. I don't know how to get started.
It's a new dynamic.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well,
Welcome to our new studio.
yeah, welcome to it. Okay.
Well, should we start with gratitude?
Yeah. I need a breather.
Have you started the Podbean room?
Yes, it has
Okay.
all started. Recording started here.
If you're listening to the podcast, please go to youtube.com /@sobermind and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it.
Nice.
Yes. Because, well, I'm not going to get into it again. It just, this isn't free. There's no money being made, especially when you're doing the podcast portion of it. Oh man, I left my tablet over there. Judy, you're on the notes then.
Well, we have to do gratitude first.
Yes. Okay, I'll jump in with the gratitude. So today's topic of discussion is going to be depression.
The big D,
Just that. And
as Patrick said.
the big D. So what happened was, we've talked about this before, but I think it bears repeating. It's a big deal. I posted a short the other day that got like 5,000 views. It was pretty popular, and it was just me saying, "Hey," it was titled a 5-minute depression fix. And this is something that I read before, and I've tried to really incorporate it into a lot of things, and that is,
Wait, is it a spoiler alert? Is it a downward dog? Sorry.
it
Just
is
go
not.
meditate it out.
Right.
It's fine.
So, basically, it is, if you're stuck in a rut, especially when you're suffering from clinical depression, try to set a timer for 5 minutes and engage in a task for 5 minutes, and you'd be surprised at how quickly you start to build up a little bit of dopamine, and you start to develop a little bit more desire.
Now, are these tasks that said person enjoys, or just any task?
Just anything, it's shit. Okay, let me back up. The comment so I posted on there to set a timer for 5 minutes. You only, when you do the YouTube shorts, you have a 15-minute window where you can make these quick shorts. So a lot of good comments. People are like, "This is what I needed. I'll try this. I'll check it out." I was like, cool. Some some dude on there, of course, the trolls of the earth posted, but I know he was kind of serious. This is what's frustrating about the misconception of a lot of mental health issues. He's like, just get up and go to work. When you're doing a million things, you don't have time to be depressed. I was like, oh my God.
Unfortunately, that does not work.
You have these feelings. Let's take them and put them in the bottle. Cram them all in.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that's I wish that I had the desire. Okay.
Well,
I don't want to go down a whole rabbit hole about myself on this, but there are doctors out there, Patterson, Jordan Peterson, he had a patient once. He's like, the exercise that I gave this person was, since they couldn't get out of bed in the morning during their wildly depressive episode, was to practice just simply sitting up on their elbows. Just get up a little bit, that much. That's how bad some of this depression is. When we're depressed, it's like, I wish I could just get up and go to work. I wish I wasn't sitting here thinking about how much easier it would be if maybe I wasn't around.
Yeah.
So I got a little bit, the troll got me for a second because I got frustrated. So his job was done, but it was like, I just want to take a minute or an hour to talk about depression again and the misconceptions. So Judy did her research and we got our show notes and we're going to dive into it.
Well, I wanted to make a comment regarding what he said as far as just going to work and when you have a million things going on. The first time I was diagnosed with depression, I was working a full-time job and going to school full-time. I was completely busy. So, just going to work and keeping yourself busy doesn't necessarily solve all of your issues.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a bunch of nuance there, and there's a reason why I call it the big D, because it's the looming cloud over everything. And we'll peel that onion back here in a minute, but I think that there's a lot of nuance there that I want to kind of point out and dig into.
Yeah.
But first
gratitude.
So my gratitude is this is going to be a little bit gross. So if you're eating sunny side eggs and bacon, just give your
sunny side up.
Yeah, sunny side up eggs and bacon. Give yourself a beat and hear me out.
Some grits.
Grits is fine. When Judy and I were drinking heavily, we didn't realize at the time that one of the things that was contributing heavily to our morning time hacking that we used to do was the inflammation process that drinking causes. So for years and years, we would wake up and we'd call it having our shower episode. From the minute we would roll over in the morning, we'd be in the shower dry heaving and coughing really hard. And it's just, our bodies are congested and inflamed. And we'd always chalk it up to, man, I always got allergies, or man, I ate way too much cheese and sausage last night.
We couldn't blame smoking because neither one of us smoked cigarettes.
Just ignore the 1 or 2 gallons of poison that you imbibed the night before.
Yeah.
Ignore the elephant in the room.
Yeah. So it was about a month after we quit. I was like, hey, we haven't sounded like we're fucking hawking up a horse in the shower.
Yeah.
And I started doing some research, and they're like, yeah, it's a whole inflammation process that starts to go away once you quit drinking. So I was like, sweet. Anyway, so I got gratitude for that. Another bonus of not drinking, another healthy health side effect.
Nice. That's a good one.
All right. Judith, gratitude.
Give me a second. You go, Patrick.
I have a weird one today. I was out on a run this morning, and I realized I have a lot of gratitude, and I want to be very careful wording this, but for the drunks in my life, meaning like the ones that I've known, had ironically, the few that I knew ended up being mentors in some capacity, for their other skill sets and everything. And, I looked up to them for a lot of reasons, but they also had, issues with drinking that to the degree that it was very visible. And I hope they find solace where they're at now, some sort of peace. But I don't want to like hold them up as like, oh, I'm thankful because they're just a perfect cautionary tale. That was part of like demystifying, like, you know, the drunk is not the rosy cheek person with the brown bag passed out on the public bench. You know, these people were like mentors to me in other areas, and it made their pain, you know, that much more real. You know, they were obviously dealing with more than I was feeling by proxy, but I don't know. I am grateful for their lives, and, you know, that whether they wanted to or not, they shared some of their struggles. So
that's a good one.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Patrick.
Yeah. Let's see. I really haven't thought about what I'm grateful for. The only thing that has come to mind is lately that I've been able to go to sleep with gratitude. While I'm trying to drift off to sleep, I've been trying to condition my brain to go through all of the things that I'm grateful for, and that has helped with nightmares and excessive dreams that I've had. And I think that just goes with, you know, going through menopause and coupling that with the anxiety that I go through. That has been able to help me have sleepless nights and to wake up in a good mood and to be, you know, happy and grateful throughout my day. So that's what I think I'm grateful for.
Nice. Have you told your dad what you think about at night?
Oh, the comfortable feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me to sleep at night, I've been going through when I was a child and feeling the most comfortable and the most secure and the most worry-free. And the only times I could think of was during the summer times when I was spending those times with my dad, parents being divorced, spent the summers with my dad and my stepmom. And during those times, you know, when I would go to sleep there, I could hear the crickets outside and I would be in my bed and I had no worries whatsoever. I knew that I would wake up the next day and I could go play and I didn't have to go to school and I would have breakfast and I would, you know, go in the pool and those things were nice, as far as, you know, those were able to give me the happy feelings that I could experience. And those were the only times I could remember, because during the school...
I was keeping your hand down from smacking the cord up there.
I talk with my hands.
I know. So when you were telling me that the other night, sorry I interrupted, I thought that...
Totally blew my thought a tree.
I know.
Thanks, babe.
I know. Train of thought. I just thought it was really, really nice and special that you had all of those good memories from when you were staying with your dad during the summer.
Yes, those were really nice. Those are the times that that feeling I could actually tap into right before I go to sleep, and I'm able to have a no nightmare night sleep. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Nightmareless.
Yeah, nightmareless. There we go. Nightmareless sleep, and wake up the next morning feeling really good.
Yeah, that's very nice. And Judy asked me, she goes, "Do you have any special thoughts of when you were young?" I was like,
nope.
I got nothing. It took
Which
me,
is very
I really
sad.
had to think
Which
about
is very
it.
sad.
I know. I was like, man, yeah, a lot of anxiety as a kid, born with it. Anyway,
so that's gratitude.
Yeah, nice, babe. Patrick.
That's a good one. I mean, I feel like I'm just reminiscing too, you know, where I grew up in my younger years, had like free range kids, more or less, you know. It was like about 1.5 acres to 2 acres per house where we were at. So it was a lot of space to play and just wander. And like, you know, I just remember doing all the outdoor activities. You know, when I did my coaching, a lot of my, you know, I talked about my dialogue with my inner child and everything. And that often is in a place of outside, you know, like exploration, just the auditory sounds. You mentioned the crickets, you know, the breeze. To me, there's just something, you know, like growing up in the Midwest, you know, feeling that like in the springtime, that cool breeze with that thunderstorm rolling in off on the horizon.
Oh yeah,
the
those
low
are the
rumble,
best.
the crackle of the, like it's amazing how many of these cues can put you together. We've talked about behavior many times on here, and it's nice when you have that empty space to bring up those positive ones, because if you are in depression or have anxiety, your underpinnings, are catapulting you. As much as you want to just escape the day and just wind it down, you're like, all right, I'm done with the day. I just want to fucking go to sleep. And you're like trying to wind down, and you're just on a, the rails have already guided you on this path that you're just anxious trying to get to sleep. And when you do, your brain's not in a relaxed state. So what's it going to do? It's going to be like, hey, you were worried about all this. So I think fear is just going to be the general theme that we're going to play in your brain tonight.
Yeah.
It's like,
be
I've been
prepared
doing
to
this
have
all
really
day.
awful dreams. Yeah.
So it's nice. I'm very thankful for it. I always find it intriguing that for many people, it's not for everybody, but for many people, those outdoor auditory cues are often linked with positive feeling and positive emotions and everything like that.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I wanted to give the definition of depression from the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. So definition, aka major depression disorder, clinical depression. A mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest in long periods of time. Depression is different from regular mood changes and feeling about everyday life. So basically, it's sadness and depression are two different things. You can be sad, but you usually snap yourself out of it. Depression lasts for, at least 2 weeks and longer that you're stuck in that mood. So that's the definition of depression. Some of the signs of depression is irritability. Believe it or not, it's not just somebody who's crying and sad. Those can manifest in irritability, snapping at other people around you, snapping at your loved ones, getting to the point to where you have reached a certain level of cramming all that shit down, and you can't cram it anymore, and you just explode. So, that's part of depression. Inability to take care of ourselves, not showering, not eating properly, not exercising, not changing your clothes, not getting out of bed.
Yeah, so could we jump into it a little bit there?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So I got a lot to unpack with this. So from someone that's experienced multiple SSRIs and SNRIs. By the way, good morning, Ollie and Michelle. Thanks, Michelle.
Odie.
Did I say Audie?
Ollie.
Ollie. Odie. Baldur's Gate servers must be down again. I know. I need to figure out if we can increase the font just on that. But so serotonin, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors and selective serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors. So Effexor, Wellbutrin. I'm not going to go down the laundry list of all those. Like I said last time we talked about this, doctors have recently just started to say, we're not sure that shit actually works the way we thought it works. It's like, I don't think you know what you're saying.
No, they all basically just they just numb you.
Yes. Well, again, in the beginning, a lot of these things do have a tendency to help, but for the long term, I don't.
Very true.
Your mileage will vary. I got to be very careful because I've got several videos out there and I talk about my experience on this. Very well received, but we're not medical professionals. We don't. Every time I talk about this now, since I quit, I sound like I'm talking against SSRIs. I'm not. It just got to a certain point. Patrick and I have discussed. There's no exit strategy for it sometimes, so that it's frustrating and
some people do need them.
Oh yeah.
They they do need them for long periods of time.
Yeah, SSRIs and other antidepressants, especially if you're suicidal, these things can help pull you out of that slowly, unfortunately. But when it gets down to the core of depression, what our brain is lacking, and Judy's got a bunch of scientific facts on there, is dopamine and the regulation of it. A lot of people associate dopamine as a happy chemical in our brains. It's not really. That's what serotonin is. Dopamine at its core is responsible. There's a fly. This fucking fly, you guys.
You're pulling a Mike Pence over there.
I know. Mike Pence. It's going to crawl into my mouth and I'm going to eat it.
Well, at least it'll be gone that
This
way.
fly came down here when I started construction a week ago, and it has not left. I can't get rid of it. But anyway, so the dopamine is responsible for creating motivation and interest. So once I started reading about the fundamentals of that, it makes sense. That's why when we're depressed, it's like you don't. Patrick, have you ever been depressed like we've discussed, or have you just been the case of the blahs and sad? And I think that's we can wake up and we can have sad days and we can have bad days, but when it comes down to depression, man, my depressive stints lasted for a long time, and I'd be able to tell Judy like it's coming on.
I should probably, reach back out and talk to somebody about that in the medical community, because obviously going sober after, because drinking messes with those cycles and everything. Mm-hmm. I can definitely tell a big impact with it. And I'm, rewiring the body may not have as much dopamine as I had before. And so I think it would be worth talking about. And what I wanted to throw in this conversation is everything that Judy talked about, the irritability and all that, you read through it the first time, you're like, yeah, go through that. And it's a really hard thing to understand what feeling sad is versus feeling depressed. And I'm just realizing this now, 42 years into existence, that it is, I call it the big D because it's the big cloud. And it is at a surface level, if we look at all these things, I could ask if you're these things, and you said, yeah, but it's either today or I'm feeling irritable today. It takes a lot of introspection and continuous monitoring and dialogue to understand, to get to that point. So it takes you have to continuously check in with yourself, because when you're in that deep throes of depression, right, you're just stuck in it, right? Well, today's just a bad day, and then tomorrow may be a little bit better, but
yeah. And also somebody who is deep in depression, they're so fogged that they even have a hard time expressing what's going on in their head. There is so much in their head clouding it. They can't express everything that's there. They can't even express a complete thought without getting restricted or stuck in that loop, what they call it.
Yep.
So yeah, I completely understand that one.
So I mean, it's insidious because it affects a lot of people, but I think it's hard to tease apart. From we say, feeling sad to clinical depression. What's that time frame look like? Is that a week? Is that a couple
2
days?
weeks.
Yeah, well, I understand, but we say 2 weeks, but we have ebbs and flows.
Yes,
that
very much so.
You're like, well, I finished out the 2 weeks kind of strong, and then the next 2 weeks are shit, and then it's right. It's always this kind of up and down that you have to continue to monitor in, and same with if you're on medication for this type of thing, it's not just this one dose is going to be it for the remainder and I'm good. It's a continuous dialogue, and I think that's the thing about mental health and mental health support is it's not a check-in and I'm fine and then you're on your way. We have to develop the tools to cultivate and care for ourselves on the regular basis. And that begins with that inner dialogue and awareness, and then talking with others about it.
Yeah, and you nailed it. unfortunately, there's no hard timeline on that too. But when I was going through my episodes, I would know like day 1, day 2, oh shit, I can't get out of bed. Day 3, Judy would be like, "Are you doing okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm in a really bad, deep, dark place." You know, then she'd feel bad because there's nothing she could do. And that had a profound impact on my professional life too. Being in the position I was in, because it's like I do not care about anything. I found out recently that it's a good qualifier anymore for FMLA, family medical leave. But so when I would talk to my psychiatrist at that time, she would always ask, how long have you felt this way? I was like, about 2 weeks. She's like, yeah. So that seems to be the magical number. I don't know where they get it from, because being depressed for more than a day, it starts to really have a degraded effect on you, because it seems to get worse and worse, because you just start going into this feedback loop of, you know, oh man, I'm going to go to sleep. Hopefully I'll wake up tomorrow. And then when waking up depressed and crying is the worst fucking way to start your life, man, on a daily basis, you know?
Yeah, I think also one of the things that also helps to decipher between sadness and depression is when it starts to affect your daily life. I mean, you can be sad but still go through your daily life and be, you know, do what you need to do. And when you get into that depressive state, you can't get out of bed. You can't complete tasks. These are things that are affecting your daily life. That's when it starts to get more important, more to where you need to start paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah, and it's so profound that they've recently started to discover that long-term depression actually shrinks your brain mass. Like it's physically debilitating. It's a cause of, like, I think early onset dementia and a bunch of other things. So
well, plus untreated depression is one of the major causes of suicide as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
Do you guys want to go into some of the misconceptions of depression? We just jump right to that, because I think we're touching on that right now, and we might be able to move into that a little bit better. One of the misconceptions of depression is people with depression are just really sad. Obviously, we've already touched that one. The other one, it's really obvious when somebody is depressed. They don't look depressed. A lot of people who go through depression some of them can mask it in front of other people. You know that commercial where they show that happy face on the stick, and they just put the happy face in front of their face? Yeah, that can easily, some people going through depression can easily mask that type of depression. And we also have to realize that there's more than one type of depression. Yeah,
there was times when I look back on some videos that we made when I was at like a 50% depression level. Mm-hmm. And you certainly can't tell just by looking at anybody. I think Patrick was surprised when he came over to do a show, and that's like when I told him, I said, hey, I've been clinically depressed for 2 weeks. We had just got done with a run, and we're having, good conversation. And it is, when people are depressed and they're trying really hard, it is definitely a fake it till you make it. Mm-hmm. Because you learn how to pull yourself out and function. But then we can get into the whole high functioning depression, which I think I've had all of my life and still have, because I don't understand where fucking baseline of happiness is. I've gotten a lot better since I've gotten off the medication, but it was revealing to me and very introspective when I told Patrick about it. It was like I was revealing some deep, dark secret. It makes me kind of sad right now thinking about it, because it's not like I'm ever trying to be dishonest, but how do you unpack that shit to people too? And I think that's the other thing, is when people have mental health issues, they don't talk about it, because like Odie said last time, he's like, I don't want people to burden it or have to figure out what to say or whatever. So we just don't say anything. So,
yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. The depression looking different on other people. First person I thought of was Robin Williams, right?
Yes.
And Patton Oswalt dropped the joke afterwards, the Panucci joke. Guy walks into a doctor and he's like, I'm clinically depressed. I've tried X, Y, and Z. I've done all these things. And the doc's like going through them, and it's a couple hours into it, and the doc's like finally like, all right, look, like I need you to just do something. I need you to go see this world famous clown that's in town tonight, the great Panucci, right? And he's like, everybody laughs at him, so why don't you just go to it? And the guy just breaks down in tears, and he's like, but I am the great Panucci, right? And like that always hit home, because it looks so different on people.
Mm-hmm.
Those are really good examples too, Patrick. That we always get surprised with. You have Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park, Chris Cornell,
mm-hmm.
Anthony Bourdain.
Chester was a tough one because people may not know that like his wife posted a video of them like a few days before with the family and everything, and he was just doing the dad life.
Yeah.
It was like, and she was very vocal speaking out on, like clinical depression doesn't mean you just sad all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's.
And we also have to realize that there's different types of depression.
Yes.
There's the high functioning depression. There's seasonal depression, which is now documented. And there's, the manic depression, the people that really get so debilitated that they can't function.
So I want to kind of come at this sideways and give me a minute to explain, and we'll follow along. And I feel like a lot of core depression, this is just my personal feelings. I'm not a doctor or anything, but it really stems. I look at my states that I had, of great loss and or traumatic times. This is the body's way of trying to tell you stuff is going on, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it is tied to loss of integration, meaning you view yourself separate from events going on. We do this manifests by putting up our walls, right? I feel sad, but I need to be a good person, so I will do X, Y, and Z. I need to be the funny person. I know how to put up the jokes, and I'm crying on the inside, right? Mm-hmm. You begin to separate your existence from what is going on. Like you feel like there's another entity inside, and the more that begins, so you expend all these energies, like building those walls, building the facade, and it becomes, because it is not part of you, it becomes so draining. Mm-hmm. I don't want to wake up and be this fucking person and, I'll stand by the water cooler and be like, oh, how's it going, Bob? Live a dream. Fuck off, man. Like, seriously, there's just some days where I'm just like, I don't want to do that fucking bullshit. I don't want to do that rigmarole. And I get frustrated because I have to find a way to be my genuine self to show up. And I think that's where a lot of the struggle comes in. It looks different on everybody.
Oh yeah, most
right?
definitely. Yeah.
But I really want to say at the core, it really, if you are continuously like, if the ego is so profound that your existence feels so disjointed from
mm-hmm.
everything else, and you're living that life in here, it's gonna be fucking sad. Mm-hmm. And it's not just sad. I don't want to say just sad, because it's sad. It's not just sad that depression is. It's correct. Isolating.
Yeah, very much so.
Right? And it becomes that echo chamber over and over and over. And to speak to your troll, of just go to work, I think this is the scary part of depression, when it's the cloud, because you also just argued for like, just do a task for 5 minutes, right? Get into the action of it to get the body moving, because mm-hmm. It's a chemical imbalance, right?
Right.
So is that troll's argument of just do the work not valid? My point is, both of your points are very valid, But at the same time, you know, to his extreme, you don't go to work if you're just going to work to put up that facade, right? I'm trying to talk about genuine intention of your stuff. If you're having trouble doing a task, getting out of bed, yes, sitting up on your elbows is first. Not the task of putting on your shoes, getting dressed, and looking like a good person so they know that I don't sleep in bed all day. That's not the task to invest your energy in. You know, we need to be able to invest to find a way to meet ourselves where we're at currently. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's admitting, like, you know, maybe sitting up on an elbow is it today. Or telling Bob that, like, I'm just here to get the water and I'm going to be back at my cubicle. I'm willing to talk later. Mm-hmm. I don't want to. How's the weather outside? Hey-o.
Go away, Bob.
Yeah. You're right, Patrick. But the troll again, there is. It's tough because I've worked for people. You know who I'm talking about. One of my bosses, like he's like, hey, how are you doing? I'm like, I feel, you know, I've been going through some depression and anxiety lately. He'd just straight up be like, shut the fuck up. Quit being such a...
I mean, we grew up like that too. Just rub some fucking dirt in it and pick yourself back up, right?
Yeah.
Just, you know...
Just go get drunk. Get over it.
Yeah, right.
There's also another issue is that depression does not need a cause. Depression does not need... You do not have to go through some grand thing that happened in your life to cause this. Depression does not need... Now, granted, some things in your life that you go through cause depression, you know, a loss of a family member or a loved one or something, you know, drastic can cause depression. But not necessarily every depression that happens has a specific cause to it.
Like trauma is, I'd say, the disconnect from one's feelings, right? You know, inability to process stuff. And that's why trauma looks different on many people. You know, I would equate the same as I just said, that depression is loss of integration of self in the event, you know, where you're trying to isolate yourself more and more.
There was one Dr. Helen Maber I was watching, and she was talking about what effects happen in the brain when you get into that depressed kind of situation. And there's certain areas in the brain that toggle back and forth between your cortex or your action and you're doing stuff and you're thinking and you're processing to that one where she calls it CG25 section of the brain, to where you're just stuck in that specific depressed state. And the other cortex part of your brain doesn't toggle back into the action and the moving and the processing and the thinking. And you're just stuck there. So, I mean, you know, they have mapped it out in the brain what actually happens when you go through depression. And some people do get stuck in that specific portion of the brain. It won't toggle back to the action thinking, the cortex, cortical part of the brain.
Yeah, it could. There's brain injury that attributes to a lot of it too. So that's where they recently discovered, you know, a lot of football players when they get concussed,
CTE.
Yeah, they end up getting into these wicked depressive episodes where they end up committing suicide. I forget the name of the last one that I did a little bit of research on, but
Junior Seau is the one that pops into my mind. That one was
donated his
body. He shot himself in the chest.
Yeah,
so
that's
he
right.
They could take a look at his.
Yeah, he's like, I got to leave this planet. I can't handle it anymore. But please study my brain.
So, I don't want to necessarily counter, but, you know, I think, you know, depression isn't necessarily good nor bad. You know, what I'm trying to say is, I've also read that there's evolutionary traits why depression exists, because during those states, you know, we have a higher intellect and higher introspection. Like basically it gives us pause to like think, you know, so if we've been injured or have that trauma, we have that time to either formulate a plan or think about stuff a little bit more deeply. And we're not expending energies on just responding and sensory seeking at that point, right? But it's exactly like you said, Judy, if you cannot unswitch from that, like
if your brain can't toggle back and forth,
if you can't toggle out of that, like what I'm trying to say is like these types of feelings are good in an ebb and flow in a yin and yang environment where you have the balance of it, right? We will have the blues, we will dip into like maybe a two week depressive episode. But if you can't toggle out of that, I think that's when, you begin to see the long-term effects, like the brain shrinkage and the stunting of behaviors, further isolation, right? Those are very...
Yeah. There was, go ahead.
So what are some things we could do?
Well, I wanted to go over some more of the misconceptions really quick. One of them is some people mix up bipolar with depression, which is two different things. Depression, you stay in that state. Bipolar, you have those swings from the manic to the depressed.
No middle ground.
Yeah, it's one extreme or the other. Mental illnesses are not common. The World Health Organization states that at least 1 out of 4 people will have a mental illness.
Good thing there's only 3 of us here. I kid.
And I'm perfect. So it's one of you that's all fucked up.
Yeah. So those are just some of the misconceptions. There's other misconceptions out there like, just take some antidepressants and then it'll fix it. Well, no, that it helps, but it doesn't address the problem. It's not a magic, it's not a one pill fix type of deal that just doesn't work. So,
yeah. So what can we do to start to get out of it? I'll go first.
Go for it.
Downward dog.
I've been there. Yeah. That's our inside joke. Downward dog your way out of it. Hey, first I want to take a minute to say I'm really happy to be here with you guys, and I like the studio that we got going.
Heck yeah,
this is nice.
This is awesome.
Dad brought these flowers this morning.
Thank you, Dad.
I'm very proud to be here with you guys.
Thank you, Patrick. I am too. Okay, so what can we do? Let's talk about some real world experiences. I noticed this time of year with your dad. He'll start to get into a funk, we call it. He gets the blues, and if we don't do something to attack it, he starts to go downhill pretty quick. And so the example that I like to throw out there is, I know it sounds super cliche, but it is get your body moving and your head will start to follow a little bit. So the truth is there.
It doesn't always work for some people. Some people who are stuck in the CG25 section of their brain cannot get out of there.
Oh, I know.
And what worked yesterday or the week before may not work today.
Oh, I know. But the first thing doctors will ask, and the psychiatrists especially, is what's your exercise regimen like? Again, hold on, I feel like I'm gonna get attacked through the interwebs. I'm a proponent of saying there's no easy fix to this. I've been through a lot of them, but what helps is to start to move your body. That's why I like to throw out there I've laid there in bed like nothing's gonna fucking help. I start crying. I'm like, I just can't. It's not gonna be good. But if you can roll your legs off the bed, strap on your shoes, do that for 5 minutes. If you make it to the door, then great. If you don't, then start again tomorrow. But if you can get outside and start to move, you're not gonna get outside and be like, I'm super fucking happy and there's a rainbow above me. Because dopamine doesn't work like that. But before you know it, you've got a little bit of inspiration and motivation and desire happening. And once you can start to build those up a little bit more and keep doing that, you're not going to be out of your depression by walking down to the fucking mailbox. That's not what I'm saying. But
you can be on your way out of depression.
You can be on your way. And, next step is talk therapy. Talk to someone.
That's what I was going to say.
Go seek some help. I know it's easier said than done. And, all 3 of us here are very privileged that we have medical insurance and resources and things at our disposal that we're able to go take care of this stuff with and even start the journey. I know there's some people on the chat that are not that fortunate. And they're just like, shit, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to eat next week. But
I want to speak to your behavioral motivation there. We've talked about this many times before, and you just highlighted how the dopamine is your motivating factors, right? And when we're learning to cultivate a new behavior, there's a difficult point where, it's like running or working out. There comes a point where you have to learn that, if you're on that goal, like waking up on the days and doing the workout when you don't want to, you have to learn to work out when you're not motivated, right? If you're on that goal. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to say, just grin and bear it and say, hey, thanks, Bob, I'm going to get my reps in. What I'm trying to say is, to your point, John, is the motivation follows action a lot of times, especially with the bodies. It's a chemical thing. Give yourself the grace to understand that, just because you don't want to do it now, and at the same time, that doesn't mean like if I get up and move, I'm ready to run a marathon. Walking to that mailbox, I've talked about crushing a bag of Reese's is a win when you're trying to get sober. Mm-hmm. I remember after my brother passed, waking up and making my bed and brushing my teeth was the big win for the day.
Yeah.
And you know what? It was a fucking win that day.
Yeah.
And I will celebrate that, because you have to meet yourself where you're at on that. If that's what's getting you moving, then so be it. And I had couple down days after that, and you'd start to string together. Okay, today I vacuumed. Today, just give yourself some grace and know that the motivation may not be there, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say two things, actually. The first thing is, people who are depressed don't choose to be depressed. This is not a choice for a lot of people that go through depression. And the second thing is, reach out to people, because there are people out there that do love you, that will try and help you the best way that they know how. Whether being able to go to a therapist, or if it's just a family member, or if it's anybody, a friend, anybody, reach out. Don't stick in your little box and stay, in your little corner, because you think you're all alone, because you're not. There is, they said that nobody is immune to depression. 15% of the adult population will experience depression at some point in their life. So everybody has, not everybody, but a good portion of the population has experienced this before. So there's people out there that know what you're going through. So by all means, reach out for help, because there will be somebody there to help you.
Yeah. I also think of, there's a quote by Jim Carrey. He's talked at length about depression before, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. And he absolutely says, he's like, look, exercise. He goes, I hate the people that are going to say, like, just start exercising and you'll work your way out of it.
Yeah.
And he goes, but to be honest, if you're not eating healthy, if you're not exercising and you're not engaged in certain activities, you're not giving yourself a fighting chance.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was one of the early quotes that I realized, like, I've talked about, we talked about reaching out to suicide hotlines last episode. Mm-hmm. Like, I love everybody that's listening to this that wants to better themselves. I love everybody else that's not listening to this and just wanting a chance to better themselves. Take that little seed and grow it to, like, you are your best advocate. Mm-hmm. You got to learn to fight for yourself some days. And that begins by maybe putting on your shoes and making your bed.
Brushing your teeth.
You are worth it. And, like, learning to suck at something first is the first step to getting good at something. So, maybe calling up your mom or a loved one, or, maybe just talking to that neighbor about, like, how today sucked. It may not be perfect, and they may not perceive you the same way afterwards. But you know what? Fuck it. This is the one life that we have. And until we can begin to learn to articulate those feelings better, It will come with time.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. There will be other opportunities. Besides, everybody's dealing with their own shit. They don't have time to worry about yours.
Yeah. Okay. I'm super depressed now. I'm just kidding. I am not. I am not.
That was not the goal of this show today, by the way.
No, I am far from it. Just, you know, I know I've said it before, but man, being in those episodes where I was for so long was just a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
So it's been real pleasant being able to be on the other side of it and be able to talk about it.
Well, it also made me realize that I've probably had longer episodes than I originally thought. And I probably have dealt with depression a lot in my life. And, you know, I'm definitely, I need to check in more regularly on myself with that.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
It's a very, I think when you said, oh great, now I'm depressed, you know, I think that just goes back to what I was trying to say is like, it's the big looming cloud, and it is so hard because it gets, blurred in with, everyday activity, and it takes time to just tease all that apart. And some of us don't have those tools to do so. And so
another thing is that depression isn't biased. It
right. It don't give a fuck.
It doesn't care if you're male, female. It doesn't care what color you are, what gender you are. It does not care whatever. Abraham Lincoln was depressed. Albert Einstein had depression. So I mean, it's not restricted to just everyday Joe. I mean, these people were high achievers in whatever they did, in what they did, I should say. But they still suffered from depression. So it's not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't care who you are. It'll hit you. You just got to be able to work with it, to work through it, and to come out on the other side better, hopefully.
Yeah, there's one more thing that I found recently, and that's really helped. You talked about talk therapy and stuff and just talking to people.
Yeah.
And I talked about this in a previous episode of learning to just hold space for others. Meaning when I talk with somebody and they're going through a tough time, it still does. And it's still an exercise for me where I don't have to put on the cape and solve the problem.
You don't have to
what
fix
I have to realize is meeting them where they're at, the gift of the conversation of just dumping that shit out and leaving it there and just being able to talk about it may be the gift in itself. You don't have to fucking solve everything.
Right.
And that is what I'm super thankful of, for our podcast here. I got to blather on how I, feel about crazy things and, may not have had the time to sort through it into other areas and unpack stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be solved or made better or whatever. The fact that, just having the space to learn to articulate it, I think is very, very awesome.
Yeah, it's a healthy form of mental liberation, if you will. And I think, so to your point, just being able to figure out a way to start to get it out of you is I think a path to getting a little bit of that healing in.
Yeah, it also helps you to understand what's all the stuff that's going on in your head, because a lot of people that are going through depression are not there's so much stuff going on, and that inner voice is just nagging and nagging and nagging. And so for them to be able to talk to somebody about it and get it out, my earphones are falling down my head.
Yeah.
For them to be able to talk to somebody and get it out, it helps them to kind of put it in order, and so that they can understand a little bit more of what's going on in their head instead of just the constant, nagging.
I have this image, we talk about samskaras, these are items that our identities hold on to, when we run into incidents or events, these are thoughts that stick with us. Oh, that person wronged me because they cut me off. Right. And it's because they didn't see me. Right. or other items like, or, you know, I felt this way because my brother did something, or I felt this way, you know, it all relates to our identity and ego. And these are called samskaras of what we hold on to. And we base our thoughts based around how we expect life to unfold, right? And our identity is really tied to that. And so I see us when we retreat inward and we're just left with our only thoughts, that we're just collecting these over and over and over. So I feel like a little golem, you know, going into these episodes. Like, you know, once was this hobbit, you know, this kid that like loved to play outside and listen to the crickets and the thunderstorms. And then like over time, you're just collecting these samskaras. And I'm just like, now this, you know, drinking, waking up in the morning, you know, my hacks were like, call him, you know, right?
Yeah.
Like that is the physical manifestation of like taking all this garbage on, right? And we just can't process it. Like we're using other ill coping mechanisms and habits to just try and survive of this garbage that we've just collected throughout our life.
Yeah,
So,
when the brain doesn't know how to deal with all that stuff, you end up with...
It tries to shut down and go into standby mode, i.e. depression. Like, I don't want to do anything else because I'm so, you know, so encumbered carrying this shit.
Yeah.
You get stuck. You get stuck in that state of paralysis. You can't move forward. You can't function in your normal day-to-day life. You just get stuck in that state. And
yeah, and that's
horrible.
That was a good segue I was going to jump into, Patrick, was once I got sober, I started to, as I went into my whole mental health journey, I was doing a lot of reflecting about how depressed I was and how much masking there was with drinking.
Yeah, a lot.
I never went into it with the intention of, oh man, I'm depressed, I'm going to get drunk. It was, for me, it's difficult to articulate because I was in a steady state of always some, you know, blood alcohol level. But I would, especially like on 3 or 4 day benders for long weekends, I would have to find myself taking a sick day. It wasn't necessarily, well, it was because I'd have a hangover too, because it was the math calculus that we always joke about. It was the day before work, like, I'm starting to get the shakes. Let me, how many beers do I have? And then after like 12, your brain's like, oh, fuck it. I'll be fine. Cause now I'm not depressed anymore. And now I'm fine. Now I'll sleep really good. But then you wake up with the flop sweats and fucking throwing up. And on top of that, I would have the anxiety. And for me, it was always a pretty looming level of depression. Judy would see it too. And that's when I'd say I would wake up in my pillow just whimpering, gently crying. It's because I'm like, what am I doing to myself? I'm doing this to myself, and I'm so sad about what I am becoming and what I'm doing and how I'm impacting my wife and my relationship while she was, you know, laying next to me going through the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then again, it's just, you get into that recursive feedback loop of, nah, I'm all fucked up. I'm depressed. I'm sad. I'm fucking hungover. I'm going to take a sick day. I'll only have 12 beers before 2:00 today.
Yeah.
Fuck it. 18 pack later. Off to Casey's to get another case. And it's just this, while I'm feeling, I remember the feeling that I would have of starting to become drunk, but still sad. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I was depressed or not. I can't dissect the multitude of feelings. I was fucking blistering, you know?
Yeah, you were pickling yourself.
Yeah.
Putting yourself in stasis.
Yeah. Just, what a mess.
Good thing we got sober.
Yeah. Okay.
But, you know, like I gave gratitude for those that, you know, I knew with the problem. Like, you know, I think we also have to give ourselves the grace that we were doing the best we could with the tools available.
With what we had, yeah.
You know, like, I didn't know how to say a lot of that stuff, and I didn't know how to deal with that stress. So, the reprieve of drinking was the best I knew, and that wasn't going to end well, but at the same time, I don't know. It's a very bittersweet thought for me, right? Because I can't be angry at that person doing that, because in there was that one person, as much as I was withdrawing from the pain of everything and isolating myself, there was another part of me like yearning to learn how to reintegrate and, be happy again. So we're of dark and light, and just learning how to embrace all of it, I think, is important. I don't know. It's just tough because I know that person that was struggling felt that pain enough to do something about his life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm getting that on my next tattoo. I'm dark and light. I'm Patrick and John and Judy. I joke, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm never mad at the old drunk John either.
I'm still working through that one.
Are you?
Yes, I'm still working with my self-critic, because she can be very loud.
But for the stuff that we did in the past?
Yeah.
I'm there with you, Judy. There's still a lot of stuff. I remember at my lowest points, drinking that still bring embarrassment and shame and like frustration, that and so much so that I feel like almost visceral anger that I was responsible for those actions.
Yeah.
And
the guilt and the shame, those are the ones. And I'm still taking those one instance at a time and looking at it and trying to work on forgiving myself for those actions, each individual action. It hasn't been easy, but I'm still, I'm getting better. It's getting easier. The self-critic is not quite as loud as she was. She's kind of back here a little bit and not so much in my face, but she's still there.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that with you later.
Sure.
I'm a little bit surprised by both of you. Maybe I got the opportunity to work through a lot of that stuff, or my brain is wired differently. I don't have the regrets of that stuff. When mine's a little bit opposite. I get excited and happy and have gratitude when I think of some of those experiences, and I'm so grateful that I don't have to do that anymore. I'm not embarrassed of those things, or what there's some things that are cringeworthy for sure. That oh man, like some shit that I did in the Army and only my Army buddies know about. Man, there was some wacky shit that we did that I could still smile about it, though. Get a gentle shit-eating grin about it. But Patrick, let me ask you. If you and I were drinking buddies, do you think we would have gone to jail a couple times together, you and I?
I mean,
oh my God. I could say for sure. Yes.
Yeah. It's just,
yeah.
Yeah. It's just, it's tough. I don't know. Like I have mixed emotions about it too. And then working, I think this is why it's a very important step. I don't know what step it is. My AA folks are going to have to remind me, but amending for your sins and seeking forgiveness, where you write your letters to those that you've wronged, isn't necessarily an exercise in seeking their forgiveness, but learning to expel and forgive yourself first and, move on from the past. And then also taking responsibility for your actions is a very important step in that. So,
very much so.
I think when I think back on those, it just takes time for me to unpack those. The ones that I still feel embarrassment or shame or guilt about, that's just a reminder to me. Like there are still things that I need to, my samskaras that I need to let go of, right? Of what is it about that event that still causes pain inside of me that I have to take responsibility for and make amends for.
Yeah. I tell myself a lot, well, you wouldn't do that now. So,
I mean, I
so
thought
you're a better person now. You've learned. You've grown. You're an adult now. You wouldn't do that same behavior now that you did before. So you have to give yourself credit for where you've gotten now.
And I think that was the scary part about getting older and being an alcoholic was a lot of those events that I feel about were early in my drinking career. And I would say I became a happier drunk around people, always looking to have a good time. But at the same time, the frequency increased more. The weekday evenings of, when I was around people, definitely, but the solo drinking increased. And then the downtime for all the anxiety and putting yourself in the wrong body situation afterwards just started to accumulate afterwards. But when I was drinking, I was a happy drunk. In fact, I got chided and teased a lot because I was I love you, man. I love you, because I didn't know how to fucking say that when I was sober.
Yeah.
Because,
that's a hard one.
A grown man doesn't tell another man that it's like, how do you begin to articulate like you really appreciate the relationship, especially if you're just like hanging out with a bunch of dude bros doing dude stuff, like it's like I know there was a lot to unpack there for me, but
yeah.
I am not angry at the past Patrick by any means. There are events that I still get hung up on and that evoke a lot of emotions, and that's just letting me know that I have to
still have work to do on those. Yeah.
Work to be done.
Yeah.
That I get to do.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm grateful I don't have to do those. I don't have to be that way anymore. I do experience gratitude for not having to drink anymore and not having to do those social interactions and try and remain that cool person while I was drunk off my ass.
Yeah.
I thought I was slick Rick when I was like, as soon as you get a couple in, you're like super suave and you're just this bumbling idiot.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah. I read a while ago that, we've all been there. Drink, and you're like, no one can tell I'm drunk. No one can tell. Right? That we were like, and just like, I'm going to drive to Casey's. I'm perfectly fine to drive. If I get pulled over, he won't even know. The cop won't even know. What I read somewhere is that when you start to, in your 40s and then progressively more when you're at 50, your brain really starts, you have an inherent disability to know the difference. So the older you get, like you think like I'm perfectly sober as you're sitting there like I'm totally fine. You don't know. You know what I mean?
Sober.
I would lose ability to control the volume of my voice.
Yeah.
So I would just be like
yelling at everybody.
They're like, all right, Patrick, we're right here. Because I would either get so excited or, like I felt the will to impress my presence in the situation that I would just like ramp my voice up and everybody's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm having a good time. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'd be like, oh man, no one can fucking tell.
Right? That's what is that scene? The scene in Wolf of Wall Street where he's like, he thought he was super slick and drove his Lamborghini back to the house
on lewds.
and and the cop shows up and is like, yeah, you wanna explain that? And then it like flashback to what actually happened and him just like a complete fucking shit show.
Yeah. Classic.
All right. Well, it's 11:08.
It is that time. This has been a fantastic discussion. It was weird. I had to get the change of scenery. I have to get my legs back under me. You know what I mean?
It took a little bit to get used to the flow again. Yeah.
We'll get it. I like this. There's some things I need to fine tune, and we'll figure that out later. I need a little mouse thing. I can't.
Kudos.
Yeah, we can't read the chat there. I don't. Either one of us.
Thank you for the comments, but we cannot read them.
I barely see Michelle's. Blah blah blah.
We'll get it figured out.
We'll get it figured out.
Yes.
But this has been fantastic. Really good discussion. We are playing Lords of the Fallen, Patrick. It is.
Yes.
It is delicious.
Got a soccer tourney this weekend.
Oh,
So
for the whole weekend?
possibly, depending on how many games
Oh, yeah.
How's your little man doing?
Good. Doing good. We're dealing, and maybe this is a good topic for another episode since he's he's ADHD, and we have him on the I just forgot the medication, but it's in shortage right now. And
was it Ritalin?
It's the generic derivative, the trimethyl whatever. It's a carousel trying to get that, and it's frustrating because, I don't want it to be like, oh, I can tell you're really off your meds today, but we have them on like the lowest dosage possible, and it does make a difference, and having that structure there really helps. And it's a good. And it's not a silver bullet by any means, but it's a good tool in the toolkit. And it's a tough thing to work through as well, because just either you want to have it and work through it and then work through how to manage it and or find that exit strategy. But when it's like off on, do I have to go on to another one? You can probably sympathize with that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, do we go to another one, deal with the side effects, deal with, is that going to change? Or what's the acclimation period like for that? Am I going to run into shortages with that? So it's a big issue in that community right now, to the point where, my wife uses Vyvanse, and Vyvanse was typically not an issue since that's a name brand one and not covered by a lot, but the shortage has been going on for so long and so strong that even Vyvanse now is being in its shortage, and it's been well over a year or so.
My.
But anyway,
interesting how there could be shortages of stuff. It's almost like there's the corporations are controlling.
The pharmaceutical discussion is another one to have long to unpack, because there's a lot of things I disagree with, but also the system is set. They're not doing anything wrong that the system is set up for, right?
Yeah,
so there's a lot of things that we need to address culturally and sociopolitically to begin to kind of approach that situation. So the dialogue, this is what we're here for, to put the space out, because it's not going to be like, hey, I got the answer, let's do this. It's the one thing, it's super easy, right? We're going to have to fucking talk about it and sort it all out. And, because people have different feelings and attachments to it. So.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I had said that moving forward, we would end these shows by saying, tune in next week for our whatever we're going to discuss. I didn't have one ready to go. We usually get them going within the next 2 days. You guys have a topic that you had queued up that you want to
Well, he just mentioned ADHD. I think that's a perfect thing to talk about.
Yeah, that one runs really strong in the addict community.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlapping.
I'm all about it.
So why don't we do
I love
ADHD
me some stimulants.
ADHD
I'll tell about my truck driving days.
Oh, the cross tops?
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, we'll do that next weekend.
Okay.
We'll do the ADHD and how that relates to addiction.
Okay. Yeah. So tune in next Saturday. We're going to talk about attention deficit disorders and the like. So, okay, let's go ahead and wrap up the show. This has been really nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for creating this space.
Yeah, it's a good space.
It's a good space.
You guys, a lot of concrete drilling. So many concrete holes. Okay.
So much dust.
Yeah. Tons of dust. All right. Remember, everyone, be kind to yourselves. Be patient with yourselves. You are loved.
Give yourself grace.
Grace.
If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, please contact the Suicide and Crisis Hotline at 988. Also, if you need help with addiction recovery for yourself or someone you know, please check out Al-Anon. Be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. You are loved.
You are loved. All right. See y'all next weekend. Bye.
Take care.